What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Miami. This is season 7, episode 12. First things first, Stephanie, I'm sick of hearing about this plane, girl. I'm tired. Truth is, I'm tired. I'm tired. Okay, very tired. Also, can they ever have a dinner that doesn't end up in shambles? My God, today. But let's get into this review. So y'all know sometimes before we get in to the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I don't have anything to talk about in the spicy corner. I did a standalone spicy corner video. I'll put the thumbnail on the screen. The link for that video will be in the description box below. But we talked about a lot of things. So check it out. Be respectful in the comments. All right. But let's get into this review. All right, y'all. So let's get into this episode. So it opens up where it left off. Where pretty much there is a group of women outside of the dinner hall. It is Marisol, Larsa, Stephanie, Gertie, and Julia. And Gertie is going through Larsa's phone looking at all the text messages that Jody has been sending Larsa. And Larsa's like, he won't stop. He's been doing this all afternoon. And so Gertie is like, wow, I didn't know he was texting you like that. That's not okay. So Larsa says in her confessional that none of the text messages that Jody sent her were like threatening in any way, but she was like, I just don't want him texting me all afternoon. She reads off one of the text messages where Jody basically says, stop fighting with us. Like, we've been trying to stop fighting with you. Then Larsa responds by saying, when have I ever been rude to you? And she was like ever. And I said, girl, they production show, girl, you have been rude to him. So they showed when Larsa called Jody a psycho when they were in Milan for not like unfollowing Marcus and still being friends with him. After she explained to Jody that Marcus spoke very poorly of him. So we then end up seeing Marisol go back into the dining room, and she basically is like, Lisa, not Marcus, Jody has been texting Larsa all afternoon, like all afternoon. And that's not okay, girl. So then Adriana was like, Marisol, we gonna have to taper that situation and help her figure out how she gonna sign this legal document, okay? Like, it's a legal motion, she needs to sign it. So then Alexia gets up and she goes and looks at the phone and she's like, dang, he really is texting you a lot. And Larsa was like, again, I've been trying to get him to stop all afternoon. So then Stephanie is like, I don't get why Jody is texting her. Like, nobody's significant other should be texting anybody in the group if it's not an emergency, basically. So then Alexia says, honestly, Jody probably feels like he has to stick up for Lisa, but really he's damned if he does, damned if he don't. That's why you're not supposed to tell your man everything that's going on in the friend group, okay? So then Alexia tries to tell Larsa, like, I understand this is not okay, but we need to help her. She needs to sign this paperwork to give to her attorneys. It's about an agreement for the kids, So then Lisa comes out of the dining room and she's like, you know what? I'm sorry, y'all. I'll be right back. She's about to go upstairs. And then she was like, just go back in there and sit down. Larsa ends up saying, you know what? I want to get off this ride with you. I'm sick of being on this ride with you. Okay, girl? So then Larsa goes and sits down and she says, basically, it's been 3 years of her dealing with this divorce. She's like, every day is the worst day of her life for her. Like, I'm kind of over it with her. So then Larsa also says, the moment we sit down, all of a sudden Lisa wants to talk about, do they have a notary? I need a notary. I need this. And she was like, she killed the vibe. And so Marisol and Alexia were like, yeah, you kind of are right. She did kind of kill the vibe. So then we see Gertie go upstairs to console Lisa. Lisa's like, oh my God, what an effing bitch. She's so horrible, talking about Larsa. And she's crying. Gertie is like, okay, girl, we need to get to a space where we can, it's quieter and we can figure this situation out. Gertie says in her confessional, girl, I've dealt with a lot worse. I had a groom say no at the altar. Okay, and had to shift gears. So this is nothing. You then see them sitting at the bar, and Lisa is like, I feel paralyzed like a cat. Like, I'm just, And here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. Do I think the women were being dicks to Lisa at the time? Yeah, they were. They could have been way more sympathetic and they could have all tried to help her. But I also feel like Lisa is an exhausting friend. Every single time we get together, you going through a crisis. Like every time, bro. And it also doesn't seem like Lisa cares about what anybody else is going through. It's always about Lisa and this divorce, Lenny and the kids. Like Lisa can be very insufferable. So I do understand Larsa being over Lisa and being like, girl, I don't want to do this with you anymore. But Larsa is being a dick. Like, girl, you're mad that she wouldn't unfollow Marcus, and now you're nitpicking and you're picking at her because she didn't do what you want her to do. And girl, you just got to let it go. You got to let it go. Like, honestly, if I was Larsa, I just wouldn't talk to Lisa for the rest of the season. Like, if I asked you to unfollow somebody who I've told you has disrespected me, like privately and publicly, and has said some really messed up stuff about me and my family, and you choose not to unfollow them, then I know where me and you stand, and I would move accordingly. I wouldn't be like coming at Lisa every other moment. I would just let it go and let her be her, and I'm gonna be me. Okay, and then we keep it pushing. Okay. So down at the table, Adriana is talking about how, Alexia, you know how these men play games. Lenny knows she's out of the country. So then Alexia takes this as Adriana trying to talk badly about Todd. So she was like, leave Todd out of this. Okay, leave him out of this. All right. And she was like, you guys have talked enough about my man. Okay, let it go. Let it go. I said, girl. So then Adriana's like, oh my gosh. And then Stephanie was like, I know we can't say that word at the table. That word is not allowed. So then Marisol is like, see, Stephanie, I told you wasn't the only one that get the smoke when it come to Todd with Alexia. So Marisol also says, if Lisa was dealing with all of this, why even come on the trip? It's like, why not settle that and then come on the trip? So we then go back upstairs and we see Lisa on the phone, and it's Jody. Jody basically lets her know that she has until like 5 p.m. like Miami time to get the documents signed, and they actually give us a time difference. It's 9 like 57 p.m. in Spain when she's on the phone with Jody, and it's like 3:57 in Miami. So she has at least like an hour, almost 2 hours to get this situation done. So Jody was like, well, I found this girl online. Her name is Giselle. She's an online notary. As long as you can get a phone or a computer that has a camera and she can watch you sign the documents, she'll authorize and notarize the documents. So she is like breathing. Lisa's breathing like a sigh of relief because she's like, okay, I'm going to call her. We're going to get this situated. So then Jody ends up telling Lisa, like, don't keep getting into little fights. Like, it's not that deep. It's not that serious. Then Gertie takes Lisa's phone and she basically tells Jody, stop texting Larsa because it's not a good look. Like, don't do that no more. Don't do that anymore. So then Adriana is trying to have a moment down at the table. She started crying about how she don't like seeing people get ganged up on. She went down to the church, I guess, in Spain to get blessed. And she says, I did it to deal with you guys. She was like, I'm really sensitive. So then Larsa's getting irritated. And she's like, you know what, Adriana, go sit in the corner. Like, go sit in the corner. Like, I can't deal with this right about now. So Adriana is about to have a full-on breakdown. She was just like, I just can't take when someone is being treated poorly and being ganged up on. I've had that happen to me and I don't like it. So then even Adriana says she understands that Larsa is probably tired of hearing about Lisa and this divorce. It has been 3 years, but it does feel like everyone's ganging up on her. And she was like, you know what? I truly hurt for people. Okay. So then she actually gets up and she was like, you know what? You guys are being extra mean. And she goes to the second floor, I guess. And she goes and hangs out with Gertie and Lisa. So then Larsa is like, nobody gives you paperwork and expects you to sign it that quickly. Like, she has time to get this done. Okay. So then Julia takes it upon herself to, like, start kissing everybody. And I don't get why they like kissing that lady. I don't. Julia's not even the most attractive lesbian we have in Housewives. And honestly, if I was going to kiss a woman, it would not be Julia if I was one of them ladies. But Julia feels like kissing everybody will break up the tension. Stephanie was like, girl, don't kiss me. I think she said, I am a prude. Like, girl, don't kiss me. Don't kiss. And it's crazy that Stephanie is 40 and she act like she 85. It's crazy. So then we actually see Lisa signing the documents and getting it notarized and Giselle watching her. She ends up saying in her confessional, I'm having this major life moment and nobody's really here for me other than Gertie and Adriana, and I'm really appreciative to them. So then they come and sit back down at the table and everyone's like, are you good? And she was like, yeah, everything's solved. So then she asks Larsa, like, girl, what's your problem with me? And Larsa said, girl, I don't know. You tell me what's the problem. So Lisa's like, I don't know what the problem is. I was just dealing with some legal stuff. And Lisa No, Larsa ends up saying, well, girl, your man been texting me all day and he needs to stop texting me. So then we have Lisa reading the text messages in the confessional. And I think one of the text messages says, you can't point to the sky and tell me that it's not blue. Larsa responds by saying, listen, I don't want to argue with you. And she's like, clearly we're not on the same page. And then Jody says something to the effect of like, we're past that. You just need to let this go. So then Lisa was like, I don't even know how this situation really started with us. And she was like, you yelled at me in the elevator saying that Jody started it when you really are the one that started it. And then Larsa was like, no, your boyfriend started it with me when he tried to involve himself in malign with our situation by saying that I'm the one that sent the paparazzi to go take pictures of Marcus sniffing that AC. That's where it all stemmed from. So then Lisa tells Larsa, you're acting like a victim. Like, stop acting like a victim. And then in the confessional, she was like, she's the villain. Mind you, I don't want to hear Lisa calling anybody a victim or saying that they're acting like a victim when you victimize yourself all the time. All the time, Lisa. That's just like Larsa calling you a groupie. We already see Larsa as a groupie, so she don't need to be throwing that out at anybody, and you don't need to be calling nobody a victim, okay? So then Alexia ends up saying, right now, can y'all not go back and forth because y'all not gonna get anywhere. Yeah, it's not gonna stop. Lisa starts taking notes, and everyone is like, "Are you really taking notes right now?" She was like, "Well, yeah, I take notes like a student." She was like, "I'm just taking notes of how many times she's called me something, like called me out my name. She's called me a groupie. She's called me stupid." So then everybody at the table is getting like kind of like uncomfortable with the fact that Lisa is taking notes on everyone. And everyone was like, why are you taking notes on your friends like that? Well, she was like, well, I've been told to take notes. Like, it's very smart. Y'all should take notes on people. And she was just like, girl, who takes notes? Like, Larsa's in her confessional being like, who takes notes? Like, this is not a court of law. And then Adriana says in her confessional, like, well, it probably is a good idea to take notes when you in this group. And so then Alexia's like, you don't take mental notes? Why are you not taking mental notes? So then Larsa says, who takes notes on their friends? And then Lisa said, we're actually not friends, to be honest. And then Larsa said, good, then go sit over there in the corner. Why are you sitting across from me? And I said, oh my gosh. So then Julia is just over it. So she started kissing everybody. She kisses Marisol, she kisses Kiki, and then she ends up kissing Gertie. And I was irritated with Gertie when she kissed her. Because it was like Gertie wanting to kiss her. And I said, Gertie, it's giving desperate. Why are you kissing her? It's the same way I felt with Dr. Wendy. Like, girl, when Mia hit you in the head with that person through that water on you, you should have paid that lady dust. But then why are we finding out in the next episode, y'all over here showing each other y'all pocketbooks to everybody? Like, why are you showing that lady your pocketbook? And Gertie, why are you kissing this lady? Why? Why? That irritated me so bad. That's why I said I'm not about to be mad on your behalf and you're not mad. Like, I'm not doing that. I was just like, ew. That pissed me. And then they're hugging, and then I guess Gertie opened her mouth for some tongue. I said, girl, why would you want to taste that goat milk? Ugh. I can't. And you can tell that Lisa and Larsa were irritated that nobody wanted to like continue the conversation. Like Lisa has this like mean look on her face. Larsa looks irritated. And I said, well now. Okay, so here's the thing. Jody should not have been texting Larsa. Even though he made some valid points, your boyfriend should not be texting your friend, especially if y'all have come to the conclusion that y'all are no longer friends. Because if it was me and how I get down, if I have made it up in my mind that you are not my friend, I'm cussing you out extra hard. Because why you think you can send that man on me like he gonna do something? Because that's how I'm gonna take it. Like you told him to talk to me like he was gonna check me. And two, I'm then gonna call Jody or your boyfriend, and then I'm going to cuss him out royally, and then block both of y'all. And then we just gonna have to move on. you know, we're just gonna have to move on. But don't be playing on my phone like that. You don't pay the bill, so don't play on it. All right, y'all. So it's the next day. We see Alexia on the phone with Johnny. If y'all remember, Johnny is basically like Alexia's surrogate son, okay? But he lives in Spain, but specifically in Madrid. And she was like, this just sucks because you're so far away yet so close. So I wonder if we'll see him. We also see Julia on the phone with one of her friends by the name of Derek. He lives in Marbella. And so she was just talking to him. We find out later on in the episode that she's going to ask him and I guess his partner Jeffrey to be the godfathers to the boys, okay? So we then see Gertie and Adriana go to Lisa's room. Mind you, Gertie's outfit was nice. Okay, I said, "Oh girl, this is tea right here. this outfit." Oh, this it. I think the hat pulled it all together. I said, "You eating with this hat? You served the look, Gertie." I was very much impressed because normally Gertie just don't do it for me when it comes to them outfits. But this right there, that was an outfit. I said, "Come on, Gertie." So they sit down in Lisa's room, and I think Adriana was like, I just want to have fun today. I don't want the drama like we had last night. I just want to have a good time. So we find out that the group is being split up again, but in two pairs. Well, not two pairs, into two groups, I guess. So you have Lisa, Gertie, Kiki, and Adriana going sightseeing, and then the rest of the women are going to make ceramics. I would have wanted to do both, but I probably would have done the ceramic thing first because, like, to have a keepsake that's like you did ceramics or made ceramics in Spain, I think that's actually cool to bring home than just like a regular souvenir from a country. So we see the group that's going to go do ceramics. They're walking to the ceramic shop, and Marisol talks about how this reminds her of her mother because when they lived in Mexico, her mom put tile everywhere. And Marisol said, "Girl, it was a lot. It was a bit much. It was a lot." Okay, and so they get into the ceramic place, and they actually meet this lady by the name of Paula. I think that's how you say it. I want to say Paula, but they kept saying Paula, so I think it's Paula. So they're in there, and she, that lady eat and breathes and lives ceramics, okay? Because she basically lets them know that the building is actually, it still has the walls and the ceilings that were made in the 19th century where they used to do ceramics. So she was like, you can feel the ceramics in here. I said, "Oh, you love your job. I likes it. Okay? So Julia brings up how one of the boys drew a Picasso on her car with a rock. I said, as you should. Keep terrorizing them people, all right? So while they're sitting there, you hear Alexia tell a Marisol, "Girl, don't be drawing what you drew the other day." And they're like, "What'd she draw? A penis?" She was like, "Girl, don't be drawing no male genitalia." So she was like, "Well, I'm good at doing it. So that's why I like to do it." And they show each woman in the confessional drawing a penis, except Larsa said, "I'm not doing that." Marisol had the best one. You got Alexia, hers looked like a chode. I said, "Girl, is that what ties look like?" And then she had the little hairs. I said, okay. Like, it looked big. So that's the thing. It was supposed to be big, like when I first saw the picture. But then I said, "Girl, that looked kind of small." But then when she held it up to herself, I said, "No, that's pretty big." I said, "Okay, girl." Like I said, Larsa said she wasn't doing it. Stephanie went over there to call Masood and drew, and it looked, she was like, "I gotta put the wrinkles on it." I said, "Ew." Then she called him, and he was like, "No, that's pretty accurate." And they started laughing. Then Julia was like, "You think because I'm a lesbian, I don't know how to draw a penis?" Julia, we know you had 3 kids before with 3 different men. We know you know what penis look like, okay? And her penis looked like a bone. It didn't even look good. So we see the other women, and they are, sightseeing. And honestly, I will say Adriana would be a great tour guide because you can tell that she is passionate and actually enjoys teaching people about like the arts and culture and architecture. And I was like, I would vibe to listening to her talk about the different stories. They're going to this place called, I think, Alcazar of Seville or Sevilla. It's pretty much a castle, and Adriana says that the royal family still lives there as well, but it was a castle that was created by Muslim people. They were the ones that built the castle. So she's talking about how happy she is in her confessional. Adriana is just like, "This is my happy place." She's like, "I went to school. I've been to over 58 countries. I know 5 languages. Like, this is my vibe." Okay. And so they're walking through. The architecture was very, very beautiful. Gertie keeps calling Adriana Inspector Gadget, and she does kind of look like Inspector Gadget with her little hat on. They get to this one palace, or this one part of the palace, and it has gold all the way at the top, and it's like, it was really nice. So the scene switches, and we go back to the ceramic shop. Honestly, this is where Stephanie started to work on my nerves because she's doing too much when it comes to this plane. Way too much. Way too much, okay? And all the people that was doubting Alexia, saying that, oh, she was jealous, she might be, but Alexia had Stephanie's card, okay? She told y'all that Stephanie was using that plane to dangle it in front of the women like a carrot, and she feel like she the big dog because she thinks she got the most money, and she not that girl that she thinks she is, okay? So they're sitting down, and Stephanie basically tells the women that, like, we're gonna take my plane. She ends up asking Larsa, like, do you feel comfortable with Lisa being there? Larsa basically says something to the effect that she was so angry last night that she was shaking. Stephanie says, I want to know, should I invite Lisa on the plane? You can tell that Marisol and Alexia are kind of like, girl, where are you going with this? Like where are you going with this? So basically, Larsa says she don't know if she wants to be on the same plane with Lisa. Like, she's just kind of over it. She was like, every time we get around each other, it's something. But also, Larsa, you be the one that be starting it. So clearly, just check your own behavior. All right. So then Julia ends up saying, going to Marbella is important to me, but it's more so important to me because I'm going to ask my friends to be the godparents of the boys. I think that's a bad idea. I don't understand why you would have them be godparents. They live in Spain. They never met those two children, and they have not cultivated a relationship with them, because most people who I know who are godparents have a very strong relationship with their friend as well as the child. Also, I don't like that it's like y'all surrounding them with white people. Like, where are your black friends? Like, where's their community? Because they're going to need that as they get older. Like, I don't like the fact that they have them children. I don't. Because it's giving that when them kids get older, they're going to need massive amounts of therapy to really figure out their social and like actual self identity, because you're surrounding them with nothing but white people. Just like I said, I don't like it. So the women are like, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. She talks about how she's been friends with Derek and Jeffrey for so long. And she feels like, they would love the boys. And basically, like, they're great male figures. It's given like they got a lot of money and you trying to set them up for it. That's what it's given to me. Okay. So then Julia says, I don't want what happened at the dinner to happen on the plane. I also don't want it to happen in Marbella, because last night dinner was a disaster. Alexia was like, you need to talk to her before you actually tell her that she's like disinvited to be on this plane. You know what I'm saying? So then Stephanie basically ends up saying that Lisa has gotten away with bad behavior in this group because she's been friends with them for so long. And like, y'all just keep giving her chances because y'all are okay with that behavior. But I'm not okay with that. Like, it's my jet. I don't know if Lisa's going to have the right jet etiquette, basically etiquette on the plane. And like, she's probably going to break the first rule, which is being late, you know? They doing all of this talking about this situation in front of Paula, and she just looking like, oh my God. Oh, okay. Okay. So then as they're sitting there at the table, they're like, yeah, Lisa has changed. Marisol says something to the effect of like, it feels like she's thinking more, and then she's getting wound up and like the wheels are turning in there, that like she just doesn't let situations go so easily. And I said, dang, not y'all calling that lady stupid. That was rude. That was rude, okay? But yeah, Stephanie is doing too much. I don't really see it for Lisa. I find her to be annoying, but she's not that annoying that she can't sit on your plane for 22 minutes and go to Marbella. Like, you doing a lot, Stephanie. And it's definitely giving that Stephanie is nouveau riche. Like, she's never had money before, or she thinks that these women have never been around people or never have experienced a life where they have had that much access to money, because you wouldn't be raving this plane around in my face. And honestly, I ain't never been in contact with that much money. Like, I would rather buy myself and fly me a flight on Delta, because I'm a Delta girl, okay? And go somewhere else, okay? Like, if it's not Delta or American, I don't want to get on the plane. All right. So I would do that instead of having to deal with somebody who is constantly being like, well, you can't get on my plane. Girl, don't nobody want to be on that plane. Stephanie. So we get away from that scene and we go back to the women that were going sightseeing. They sit down in this really pretty park and everyone's like admiring the scenery and the birds. Lisa basically says how, she always feels like she's crumbling since this divorce. She was like, every day is something legal. She said, my oldest son, Logan, comes up to me saying, I want to find a way to get you and dad back together. You don't mind if I set you guys up? And I was like, girl, I hope you have them kids in therapy. Because if he's already feeling like he wants to take this if he wants to take this initiative to try to set y'all up, it's kind of given that he feels like possibly he can fix you guys, or maybe he might feel like him and his sister are the problem of the divorce. Like, so I hope Lisa is, wanting to take him to therapy, or he is in therapy right now. So Lisa's like, Logan shouldn't be worried about that. He's just a kid. So then Gertie was like, yeah, watching you deal with all of that the other day was a lot. Like, I'm not going to lie. I was actually like surprised by all the stuff that you went through. So then they start talking about the text messages and Jody texting Larsa. Kiki ends up saying, girl, I understand all of that, but Jody should not be texting Larsa. Like, that was not okay. And then Gertie ends up saying, like, I agree. Like, girl, I don't like the fact that they're speaking to each other directly. Why is that even happening? Like, Jody shouldn't be doing that anymore. So then Lisa's like, well, y'all leave Jody alone. He's a good guy. Like, Larsa started it, this, and that. And they were like, girl, he shouldn't be texting nobody. So then they start talking about the whole Marcus of it all. And Adriana is just like kind of paying attention, but not paying attention to them. And then Lisa's like, well, Adriana, you give me some clarity here. Like, you're normally like my voice of reason. Adriana basically says, I get it. You don't want to unfollow Marcus because Larsa is demanding you to do something and you don't want to be told what to do. But also you're empowering Larsa to kind of ostracize you and push you out this group because she is using that in order to get the other women on her side. And honestly, the other women agree with Larsa because they expect you to do that for them if they were in the same situation. Even the rest of the women, except for Adriana, feel like Gertie and Kiki feel like you should have unfollowed that man. So we actually see Lisa unfollow Marcus, but she was like, I'm not unfollowing him because of Larsa. Gertie said this is a good thing, so she doesn't really have anything to come at you with. So you did the right thing. So they play the Oh Joyful song. Like, everyone's kind of gagged that she actually unfollowed Marcus. We then go back to the other ladies at the ceramic place, and they're trying to figure out how to break the news to Lisa that she might not be getting on that plane. And so Julia said, well, me and Marisol are the hosts. We'll actually have a conversation with her. So we get back to the hotel, and they're up at the rooftop, and Lisa has a conversation with Julia and Marisol. Marisol is feeling uncomfortable because she's like, this is Stephanie's choice. It's Stephanie's plane. Why is Stephanie not having this conversation? Why am I taking the heat for it? So they sit down with her and they basically tell Julia ends up saying like, hey, this trip is very important to me because I'm going to ask my friends in Marbella to be the godfathers of my kids. Lisa ends up saying, well, no, I'll be on my best behavior because I know this is what this conversation is about. So then Marisol leads into saying like, hey, we want you to put your phone away. We're going to have a basket on the jet and a basket at the house. And Lisa's like, girl, I'm not doing that. I have legal situations going on. On top of that, I'm the mother of 2 small kids. Like, I'm not doing that. So Marisol basically tells Lisa, the group is on high alert, but you taking notes on everybody. And Lisa's like, no, I'm taking notes on Larsa. I'm not taking notes on everybody in the group. Okay. But Marisol's like, the group is on high alert. Honestly, I don't think Lisa needed to get rid of her phone. I mean, I get them being uncomfortable with her constantly taking notes, but start taking notes too. Julia's in her confessional saying 1 minute you're taking notes on Larsa, the next minute you're going to start taking notes on me, and I just don't like it. So then they were like, well, don't you have somebody that can take care of your kids while you're on this trip? Like, do you need to always be by your phone? And she was like, well, no, I don't have any help. So then Marisol was like, their father doesn't help you? And she's like, nope. She was like, what about Jody? And then Lisa's like, he's not their dad. But she was like, well, Lisa, he's supposed to help you with your kids. He's your partner. Like, what type of relationship is that? So then Lisa was like, you know what? I'm not doing this with y'all. I'm not giving you my phone. I'm not coming tonight to dinner. I don't feel welcome. Like, this is stupid. So then she walks out of the room and she's just like, this is effing dumb. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I will say this. I don't think that Lisa needed to give up her phone because I wouldn't do it either. But I will say it is kind of weird that she doesn't trust Jody to like really help her with the kids. And the only reason why I say that is in the super trailer, Lisa is begging this man for a ring, talking about this hand is kind of empty. And then you have Jody saying, I don't know if I want to marry into something like this chaos. And I'm like, if you want to marry this man, then you should be comfortable enough to rely on him to take care of the kids. So that's my only gripe with Lisa with this moment. I think she was in the right to say, like, yo, I'm not giving you guys my phone. I don't feel welcome. I'm not coming to dinner. But I'm just like, you trying to marry somebody you don't feel comfortable around your kids or to take care of your kids if you were on a trip, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't track. Then we start seeing everybody get ready. I will say this scene with Adriana and Gertie was actually really funny because Gertie's like doing her makeup. Adriana comes into her room and she was like, Adriana, where is your makeup? Like, you don't have no makeup on. She was like, girl, what you want me to do? She was like, help me with my makeup. And Gertie was like, girl, I am not a makeup artist. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, that's not what I do. But then we see Gertie putting makeup on Adriana's face, and she's like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. She was like, all of this makeup is for darker skin. Want me to do? That was actually a funny scene. We then see the girls down in the lobby playing with Kiki's phone. She has one of those like suction grip things on the back of her phone, and they're all like dancing and all of that stuff. So then they get a phone call from Lisa, and Lisa tells the group to go ahead, that she decided that she was going to come to dinner, but she's running late. And everyone's like, okay. We find out that Marisol actually felt bad that Lisa was so upset that she called her and says, you know, I know it's really uncomfortable, Lisa. I know you're like stuck, but she was like, you handled with that situation the other night very well, and I want to see you come to dinner. You know, you can do this, come to dinner. And so Lisa was like, yeah, I'm not gonna let Larsa push me out this group. I'm gonna come to dinner. So we see the girls pile into the Sprinter. Everyone's waiting for Adriana and Gertie, but then they're like, y'all, we have a reservation. We can just leave them and they just gonna have to like meet us there. We then see Adriana and Gertie get there, and like Gertie gets into the car that has like Julia, Stephanie, and like a few of the other ladies. And then Adriana like walks past that car, like she looks in, and you hear Julia said, oh, you can squeeze in the back here with us. And she's like, no. She goes and she walks over to the other car. And Julia was like, Adriana just basically looked me in my face and just literally like kind of mean mugged me and walked away. And Stephanie was like, are y'all fighting? And she was like, not that I know of. So then while they're in the car driving to the restaurant, Stephanie ends up telling Gertie, you know, I got some tea for you, Gertie, about Kiki. And Gertie's like, what are you talking about? And they were like, you know, Kiki found a husband. And she said, what? So they flash back to Kiki talking to some man. And basically the man said something about like, you know, in 15 hours, like he was married though, but then he said like in 15 hours, I won't be, or like 15 days, I won't be. So this could happen, you know? And they all laughed about it. In the other car, I think Adriana ends up asking Alexia, since you stayed here, why didn't you like get married to a Spaniard or something like that? And that's when we find out that Alexia actually dated or was the fiance to the grandson of the owner of Pepsi Cola. I said, girl, if you don't go and find that man, if you don't go and find them, oh, do you know how wealthy she would be? That's wealth right there. That's that girl. Oh my gosh. Because Pepsi Cola just doesn't own Pepsi. And so then Marisol's in the confessional saying, look, we need to look up this Pepsi CEO. Hope he has a big band-aid, you know, a big band-aid, and pray that he not gay. And so she could get back with him. So they sit down and basically Alexia tells Gertie, Kiki, and Adriana about the meetup that Julia and Marisol had with Lisa about, you know, wanting her to put her phone in a basket. Adriana laughed at that and basically telling her that like everyone's kind of uncomfortable with the notes. Before they got to that conversation, Stephanie brought up the tiles when they were walking inside the building, and they talked about the tile that Alexia made, and it was an A and a T and a heart, and then I think Alexia put like a turtle signifying when her and Todd, I guess, got married in St. Bart's or something. I said, Alexia, ma'am, it's cringy now that we have Todd coming out saying that Alexia chose the show over their relationship. On top of that, he trying to sue in some capacity. I'm just like, girl, mess, okay? So then Adriana revealed that Lisa unfollowed Marcus. And Larsa moves the goalpost where she was like, Adriana, that's the bare minimum of our relationship, like of this situation. No, it's not. You've been harping on all season about her needing to unfollow Marcus. She unfollowed him. Let's move on, Larsa. Let it go. Let the mouse go. You had your fun. Let the mouse go. Shouts out to Sutton. So then Gertie and Kiki look at each other and they were like, Adriana, we pinky promised that we would not tell anybody. Like she made Kiki promise away her life that she wouldn't say anything. And then Adriana was like, I didn't notice that. I was watching the parakeets. But girl, you did, like, they do the flashback and you see Gertie pulling Adriana's hand to do the pinky promise. So clearly you knew something was up if you pinky promised. So she was like, why would you do that? Why would, like, she was like, why would you do that? So then, next thing you know, we see Lisa pull up. She an hour late to dinner. Larsa says she 2 hours late, but I guess she wanted to be late to have this walk in. So she walks in while the women are eating, and she expected like some grand, like, oh my God, hi Lisa, you're here. Everybody said, hey girl, sit down, we eating dinner. Like, like, and it's kind of awkward because nobody is like really excited to see her. They're like, hey girl, hey. And they start eating, and she's like, well, okay. All right. So then Kiki takes it upon herself to tell Lisa. She was like, well, Lisa, you know, we made that promise about not saying anything about Marcus, where Adriana ran her mouth and she told them that, you know, you unfollowed Marcus. And Lisa's like, oh. And Adriana's like, it wasn't like that, Kiki. And she said, yeah, girl, it was like that. And then she said, Kiki, stop being ratchet. So then Kiki said, ratchet. And then you had Stephanie's face go, ooh. And everyone's like, I don't think, like, did she say that? Gertie is like, ratchet, girl. And Marisol is trying not to giggle because she knows like Adriana about to get ate up. Like she knows it's about to go south. So she was like, I thought we were breaking good news. I didn't do it to be messy. She says, yes, you did, Adriana. And then Kiki's like, that's effed up, Adriana, to call me ratchet. And you're the ratchet of them all. Like, are you serious? And I will say this, for Adriana to call Kiki ratchet when the first 2 episodes you was trying to basically have sex on the couch at Lisa's house. Like, that was ratchet, lady. And so she was like, that's not, someone ends up saying, I don't think she meant that word. And Adriana's kind of like just waving it off, like kind of like, ugh, whatever. So then you hear Julia say, Adriana, don't react. Kiki is overreacting. That would have pissed me off if I was Kiki. Because don't tell me I'm overreacting. And that's also why I don't want her with them black kids. Because are you going to tell your black sons that they're overreacting when someone says their hair looks like cotton? Are you going to tell them they're overreacting because somebody called them ratchet? Are you going to tell them they're overreacting because somebody called them a nigger? Or like, are you gonna tell them they're overreacting? Because that's a lot of black kids' experiences in America, and it's not just with white people; it's of people of Latin descent. It's of anybody that feels that they can demean a black person. But are you gonna tell them they're overreacting? I had someone actually be like, "Leah, I like you. You're one of the good ones. You know, I don't like niggas, but I like you." They thought that was okay to say to me. And then when I cussed them out and Loki wanted to put hands on them, I'm in the wrong. I'm overreacting. That's why she don't need to be around them kids. And then if you go back and read the things that Martina said about Venus and Serena Williams, it is no, ma'am, no. So then Gertie's in her confessional being like, you know what? Let's look up what the word ratchet means. So then she finds a definition and she says low class, out of control, used in a disparaging or complimentary way. And that is what that word, no, most of the time when ratchet is not coming out of another black person's mouth, and it's by somebody else, and then someone's calling you ratchet, it is to demean you. It is to say that you're low class and you lack value and you lack substance. So Adriana can't act like she's smart and stupid at the same time. You knew what that word meant because the moment Kiki and everyone at the table was like, oh my gosh, that should have been a sign to Adriana if she really truly didn't mean to say that word, to be like, you know what, my bad. I ain't mean that word. I was just trying to say you've been acting miserable. That's the word. I was like, you're being wretched, not ratchet. She had the opportunity to clear it up and she didn't clear it up. She put on them Karen tears, okay, after being called old. Okay. So then Stephanie's in her confessional basically saying, I don't think Adriana meant that word, but I hope she didn't mean it. I think she meant to use a different word. Lisa's like, I don't know if I need a referee or a translator to figure this situation out, but I'm just glad I'm not in the hot seat. Alexia ends up saying, I don't think she meant that word. Okay. But then you have Gertie basically saying ratchet is like calling somebody ghetto. Okay. That's not nice and you shouldn't be using that word. So then Adriana said, well, because I said that only because you threw me under the bus. Under the bus. So then that's when Kiki said, girl, you are too old to be talking like that to people. Like, you too old. Don't play with me like that. So then you have Julia saying, Kiki, stop. And I wanted someone to smack Julia in her mouth. Because Julia, shut up. Because you seem to get offended and annoyed when black women respond to things. Because when Gertie responded to you in retaliation, it was too much. Now that Kiki's responding to disrespect from Adriana, she's doing too much and she need to stop. Okay, I see you. I see you. Okay. So now all of a sudden, Adriana feels some type of way because she got called old. So she was like, because Kiki's like, if I'm ratchet, then you old, okay? You're the same age as my mom. I don't even know why you talking to me like that. Okay, you're the one who's ratchet. Like, let's be real. Let's call it a buck, okay? So then Alexia's in her confessional being like, well, I mean, she is old, or like, she's older than me, so she is old. Like, we are older. And so she was like, it is what it is. So now Adriana wants to start putting on the Karen tears where she's like, oh, I'm so old. I'm old. That's what I'm being told. I'm old. I guess I'm expired now. So it's okay for you to call Marisol an old whore. She got wrinkly knees. She needs plastic surgery. But it's not okay for Kiki to retaliate and call you old. Then don't use the word Adriana if it hurts you that much. So then Marisol is getting her life because she's happy that Kiki is getting in Adriana's ass right about now. So then she says in her confessional that Adriana says some of the most ridiculous things, and she called me an old whore a couple of weeks ago. So I'm glad she finally getting what she deserves. Karma been on her heels for a minute. So then Larsa tries to break up the tension by saying, you know what, guys? You know what? Like, we are friends at the end of the day. We need to get back to that. We don't need to be arguing and fighting this way. And so she was like, we just need to learn how to speak to each other better. And then Lisa said, we need Jesus. And Larsa said, no, we all need common sense. So next thing you know, Adriana said, but according to Kiki, she only makes friends with people that are her age, not old enough. And everyone's like, oh my God, girl. Oh my God. So then, what's her name? Lisa ends up trying to do what Larsa did by saying, you know what, I want to apologize to everybody about yesterday. Does anybody want to take my phone? And she was like, I want to explain why I take notes. She was like, after being with someone like Lenny, my lawyer has always expressed that I should take notes to keep everything in order. So that's why I do what I do. So then while Lisa is still trying to explain herself, Adriana cuts in and she basically says, I'm sorry, I got to go back to Miami because I need to, babysit her kids. And she like pretty much kind of points to Kiki and she said, because I'm a grandmother, And so then Stephanie gets frustrated because she's like, Adriana, are you kidding me? Like, Lisa was trying to like lighten the mood. Like, why would you say that? The guy sitting behind them is getting his life. He think the whole entire situation is crazy. So then Kiki is like, you know who takes care of my mother? I take care of my mother. So what are you talking about? So then you got Adriana yelling across the table, respect, respect, respect. And then Gertie is like, girl, I'm losing my mind. I am losing my mind right now with all of this. And so now, like, everyone's getting worked up. Stephanie gets so worked up because she's trying to have a moment. She grabbed her stuff and she's like, there's no way in hell I'm going to let y'all on my plane. And y'all been acting like this. She was like, this is the third dinner and it's ruined, y'all. It's ruined. So then she's trying to walk out, trying to make her grand exit. Adriana's behind her and she's like, I'm leaving. She was like, where are you going? She was like, you're not leaving with me. And I said, oh my God, this is chaos. She said, no, I gotta go babysit, so she can party. And I said, girl, this is a mess. Alexia is like, girl, the Spaniards don't do this. I don't even want them to know that we American. Like, can y'all stop, please? This is embarrassing. Lisa was like, can we like pay for the dinner, like Air Max this, like, maybe we should pay for some of the people's dinners because this is a little embarrassing. So then she goes to the table behind them and tries to apologize to them. As she walks away, she stumbles. she's So then Alexia and Marisol leave with Larsa and Stephanie. They're in the Sprinter together. And Marisol basically said, tonight only escalated because of Kiki and Adriana. And then Alexia said, Lisa, it's crazy because Lisa and Larsa were actually trying to move forward. Like, we could have got somewhere. So now all of a sudden, Stephanie started crying. And I'm like, girl, what you crying for? Why are you crying? And they're like, Stephanie. So then Larsa's like, oh my God, calm down, girl. No, Larsa says, I'm mortified. I apologize on my friend's behalf. My bad. So then they pull up to the hotel, and Stephanie is still like trying to wipe the tears out of her eyes. Larsa basically says, I think she's only crying because she feels like responsible because she's the one that offered the plane and stuff like that. So then Stephanie says, I'm taking my friends, and then I don't want to, and then we're supposed to leave other people, and I don't want to leave other people. This is just, it's too much. And I'm like, Stephanie, you're the one making it too much. Just let Lisa get on the plane. What we doing? Let Lisa get on the plane. Like, it didn't even need to be all of this. It didn't need to be all of this. I just feel like Stephanie has caused this stress on herself. And it also makes me feel like she too weak to be on Housewives, because I'm like, girl, that was not even the worst fight that I've ever seen on Housewives at a dinner. Like, if I had to put it on a scale, let's say 5 being like, oh, that was horrible, like that was an utter embarrassment, and 1 being like, oh, that was light work, I would give that a 3. I'll give it a 3. I would say, comparing that to when Teresa knocked over them cups on Margaret, where she smacked them cups on that lady, that was a 5. Now, that was embarrassing because food and drink got thrown on somebody and stuff like that. That right there that Kiki and Adriana did wasn't that deep. But I do understand being frustrated that y'all have been in Seville for that long, and every dinner y'all go to, there's an argument, there's a fight. That's a lot. That's a lot. And it's like, it gets overwhelming after a while. But I was just like, girl, what you crying for? So we see them go into the hotel, and basically, Marisol says, the way that Kiki and Adriana behaved was like really disgusting, and it was embarrassing. She was like, even when you and Lisa got into it the other night, y'all weren't even like yelling. And then Larsa was like, well, I don't yell. And then like, that's just not how I can say what I can say without yelling. And I will say that we really don't be hearing Larsa like yell. We have moments of Larsa yelling at people, but for the most part, she'll still say what she wants to say with a straight face, monotoned as hell. So then Stephanie and Alexia start bonding because they were like, you'll be saying like, oh, the house is on fire. And then Alexia chimes in, yeah, the house is on fire, and they're having fun. And then Stephanie ends up saying in her confessional, like, I really feel like me and Alexia are in a good place. She's like bonding with me, making sure that I'm okay and things of that nature. So then Stephanie pulls out these I guess rules that she wants the lady to sign. Like, this is something in high school, like a permission slip. So she passes it out, and it's like all these rules. And they were like, girl, what is this? She's like, you're invited tomorrow. You're invited tomorrow. And she was like, I need a pen. So she calls one of the staff over and gets a pen, and she draws a layout of the plane. And now she wants to do assigned seating. Marisol starts getting rubbed the wrong way because Stephanie says, I can put blocks on the plane, or like block off areas, and she was like, we could put Adriana and Lisa in the back, and Adriana could be by herself like a criminal or something like that. And Marisol was like, well, we kind of doing too much. And it was interesting, like, while she was doing that, Alexia kept looking at Marisol, and Marisol kept looking at Alexia, and I was like, I know y'all about to talk shit about that lady when y'all get back to y'all hotel room, because they both were like, yeah, you doing a lot. You doing a lot. So then, Stephanie was like, the plane ride is 22 minutes, but I don't want to be disrespected or anything. Like, if they do all of that, they can drive, And so you got Marisol saying, my God, today. She was like, I like Stephanie a lot, but she's lost me. Like, it's starting to feel like we putting people in prison and we're punishing them, and it's not that deep for all of this. Like, I don't want to put nobody in an isolated area at this point. I don't even have to go. So then you hear Marisol say, maybe we shouldn't go anywhere tomorrow. And then Stephanie was like, this is really important to Julia, so I want everything to go off without a hitch. So then Larsa said, well, just take a picture of the plane, the seating arrangements, and put it in the group chat. And she was like, well, they didn't even look at my memo where she was like, she doesn't want zippers, the women to wear zippers or anything like that. She don't want nobody ripping up her seat cushion. She also don't want nobody pooping on the plane. And the way that Marisol and Alexia looked at each other, Alexia was drinking her wine, looking at Marisol, and Marisol just has a face like, yeah, they over Stephanie. They sick. They are sick of Stephanie in this plane, and I'm sick of Stephanie in this plane. Okay. So before we get out of here, let's talk about Adriana and Kiki, because I've been seeing a lot of people trying not to call what Adriana did, like, I'm trying to act like it wasn't a big deal. She disrespected Kiki, and Kiki to me had every right to respond. Whether you think she meant wretched or ratchet, it was still something disrespectful. And when she had the opportunity to clear it up, she did not. Now, do I think Adriana is a bad person or is racist? No, I don't. And I think that's why some people don't want to call what she did a thing. But we have to be honest. Even if you're not racist, you can still do racial things. You can still do racially motivated things. I found out that the M word, like back when I used to watch Little Women, that was like my first review on this channel. I did not know the M word was a slur until I started watching Little Women LA. Or yeah, LA and Atlanta. Like, I never thought that word was disrespectful until they said that, like, it is oftentimes used as a slur against them. Just like I found out that the word Eskimo is a slur. Like, I didn't know that. And I don't even say Eskimo kisses anymore because, like, that's disrespectful, and it's a slur to the indigenous people that live, I think, in like Alaska or in Canada and those areas. So it's like, you can say things and not know how they affect people, but in order for people to realize that you're not that person, or you're not trying to be racist or culturally insensitive, change behavior. So if Adriana comes back the next episode and apologizes to Kiki, then it's fine. And then I know that she actually did not mean that word as ratchet. She actually meant wretched, and she meant miserable. But if she doesn't apologize and it's like pulling teeth, then I know you meant that word. And you are just gagged at the fact that Kiki called you old and she was coming at your neck. And that's where I see it. You can have a difference of opinion, but like I said on my other post, on my Spicy Corner post, be respectful, because I will block you. That's just what it is. But as always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'm out, y'all. Deuces.